So what we're going to do today is we're going to start off. I'm going to give a quick introduction, and then I'm going to let the panelists kind of explain more of their story after I do the introduction. First here, sitting to my left, is Elizabeth Mucci. Elizabeth is with Remax Edge out of Brooklyn and Staten Island, New York. She'll tell a little bit more of her story, but she's had many different roles in the real estate industry, and we'll definitely deep dive into her story in a little bit. In the center here, with a similar haircut and suit as mine, that is Giancarlo Casillo. He's a team leader at Keller Williams out of Westfield. I've had the pleasure of knowing JC for a couple years, and really thanks so much for coming out and doing this. At the end, Robert DiBiase. Robert's worked with numerous different companies. He's been in DC. He's worked for real estate companies out of Manhattan, did a lot of business out of Park Slope. He's also been on the management side, managing and growing for a regional company. So again, I just want to say thank you to all three of you for coming out. And we will open up for some Q&A partway through and at the end, all right? So Liz, start us off. Tell us a little bit about your story.
Hi, everyone. So my main market is Staten Island, New York, and Brooklyn, and I'm with Remax. I got into the industry at a very young age of 17. I started as a receptionist in a real estate office and quickly first saw all these agents coming in with very large checks. And I said, okay, well, how can I do that? So as I was a receptionist, I went to real estate school just to kind of understand how to do my job better. And that's just the type of person that I am. I'm sometimes almost an overachiever. I want to know more than I need to know. So I went to real estate school and I said, you know what, having my real estate license is something that I can always fall back on, and I was in college. I started working for a very large company in Staten Island, and I became the broker's assistant. And I said, well, okay, I'm basically doing all of his work. So then I went in and I said, okay, I'm going to get my license. So I went and got licensed. And I was a franchise owner for Exit Realty. And then I went into opening up a Keller Williams office as a launching team leader in Brooklyn. We brought that office from 0 to 150 agents in a very short time, and #1 in the market as well. And then I helped launch an office for Keller Williams in Staten Island. And who you're in business with really matters. And that's pretty much how I got to Remax, and the rest is history.
Oh, that's great.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Giancarlo Casillo. I'm currently with Keller Williams in Westfield. I got into real estate by accident. 2007, I graduated college with a degree in finance. Terrific time to graduate college with a degree in finance. So there were no jobs out there. I said, if I have to sell something, let's get into something interesting. So I started out as a solo agent, continued to grow from there, got into management at Weikert, actually, and was running their corporate headquarters office as recently as last year. Just saw how the field was going and where everything was going with it, decided to get back into the sales field and build my team, which I currently have now. Just able to leverage myself a lot more, and that's where we're at now. I have a team of 3, an assistant, and an ISA that works for us, and that's where we are.
Good morning, everyone. So I started my real estate career at 18, very young as well, and really just part-time for the first few years as I was going to college. And you know, I've been in a lot of different facets of real estate, from sort of the discount model to REO to building a business focusing strictly on townhouses, commercial real estate. The only thing I haven't really done is the luxury market, and I'm definitely going to stay away from that for now. Had licenses in 7 states. Right now, I'm currently licensed in Connecticut, New York, and New Jersey. I started my career down here at the Jersey Shore, but right now I live in Manhattan. And I've been in New York for about 7 or 8 years.
That's great. Rob, tell us about some of the biggest challenges you faced in your real estate career and some of your biggest successes in your real estate career.
I think some of the biggest challenges is where do you start and starting over. And real estate is a sort of a volatile career. There's a lot of ups and downs and a lot of changes, economically that you go through. And I think I've always been able to adjust like a chameleon and just work the market that is working right now. You know, when you're in a changing market, of course, you know, you have to focus on the buy side. When it's a hot market, you focus on the list side. And I think the main thing, the reason I've had success as an agent is because I've always wanted to specialize in something and own it, learn it, know it back and front, and just focus on one thing that you're good at instead of trying to know everything, know every area, know every product type. And that's how I've been able to, you know, have a successful sales career.
Right. No, I love that. I actually just did a video when I was talking about really being good at one or two things and going deep and not going wide. And I always use as an example Mariano Rivera. He was the closer for the New York Yankees. He had one pitch. It was called the cutter. You couldn't hit his pitch. He didn't have a great changeup, great curveball, but he had one pitch he dominated, and he was the first person you get 100% voted into the Hall of Fame. So I always say agents, it's super important to go deep and not go wide, because you'll enjoy it more and you'll be more successful. So I love that. What about you, JC?
Really, the biggest struggle, I think, in real estate is getting started. You come in every day, and it's great. I have my real estate license. What do you do with it, right? Kind of getting the systems in place. The best part about real estate is you don't have a boss to report to at 9 a.m. The worst part about real estate is you don't have a boss to report to at 9 a.m. So you really don't know what to do. That's why you really need to leverage the people around you, hopefully grow your business the right way, and get the systems and models in place. My biggest success with real estate came when I started to get it. Like you mentioned, getting into doing the same 2 or 3 things every single day, the routine and the habit, that's when you start to see the success and it click. Real estate is kind of just stupid repetition. The more you do the same activities, the better the results are.
That's great. Liz?
So it very similar is not get caught up in the hype of technology, what's new, new resources, new programs, what database is the best, like just focus on what your thing is. And so something for me, and when I went to RE/MAX and I was talking to Mike Napolitano, who is my broker, I said to him, I'm like, I feel like I have to do more. I need to get, and I have a very specific way that I do my business, and I personally do not lead generate. So I said to him, I said, you know, I think I need to get on the phones and call expireds. And he's like, Liz, that's not your thing.
Right.
That's not your thing. Don't focus on that. What are you good at? Focus on how you can make that even better. And that was just a huge light bulb for me. Just focus on your niche. Don't get caught up in the hype of what's going on in the industry, because the more you focus on that, you'll quickly get weeded out, you know? So.
Okay. No, I couldn't agree more. But listen, you guys are all busy executives, agents. Why are you willing to come here on a Wednesday afternoon and take time out of your busy schedule and share with colleagues?
So there are no secrets. What I do in my business is not a secret. I'm sure what they do in their business, there's no secret answer. For me, this is actually part of my business. I run a big team of, and I mean team, it's just me and my husband, but we do a lot of transactions, and our business is solely focused on referrals from agents. So agents in New Jersey that have people in Staten Island that are moving from Staten Island to New Jersey, that's my source of lead generating. So for me, thank you, this actually helps me in my business. But really, there's no secret to this business.
I think it's just such a small industry also. I mean, I've seen friends here who I haven't seen in 10 years. You know, we always get back, you know, it always comes back around. And we don't want the likes of Zillow or Amazon to take over us, right? I mean, we're still a people business, and it's on the, you know, boots on the ground type business. And, you know, we all want everybody to be successful so this industry continues to thrive.
Yeah, just to echo the same sentiment there. The better that everybody's educated in this field, the better it's going to be for everybody. Everybody's going to be in the field that's here right now, regardless. You might as well, you know, be more well-versed and ready to go out there and have some good tips on what to do.
You know, JC, going off of that, talk a little bit about education, how important it is in your business. I know personally, I set aside on my budget a certain amount of money towards education, coaching, and everything to help sharpen my skills. Talk a little bit about how important education is for you and how you've used it in your business.
It's huge. This, industry is revolving and evolving every single day. There's different things coming out, different threats. Just being able to educate yourself on different tips that you can do on what the new technology is, if you need to do that. Or just, honestly, something as having a coach that you check in with every week. I'm big on that. I have my own personal coach that I work with on a weekly basis. So education's huge. It's real easy to get stale in this business. It's real easy to not keep doing what's important every day. So just being able to educate yourself. Me personally, I make sure I go to something quarterly that is out of the area, just to get a different perspective than the typical person that I can listen to in my office. I do that, and then I have a weekly coaching call, like I mentioned, just to make sure that I stay fresh and someone's checking in with me.
Yeah, I think taking advantage of your boards that you're with also, just making sure you go, take time to schedule those into your calendar to make sure that you're learning. I always find a lot of value going to like an Inman conference also. I know it's quite expensive, but you see every major player there, every new technology that's coming out, and then also, if you guys are going into your office, or if you're not, I would recommend that you do, unless you work for sort of a virtual company. I think you always want to be present, you want to be there early, you want to learn from the people around you. I think that's really important, and then people will also trust you for referral business throughout that office too.
So one thing I learned, I was a previous team leader for a real estate franchise, and we would go to all of these trainings. Right? We go to trainings and we have the notebooks with all of the great notes in them, and then what happens? Never read them.
No
right?
accountability.
You're so excited, you're pumped up, and you never implement anything on those papers. And I'm guilty of that too. But something that I learned was, from all of those notes, before you leave the room or the conference, pick one thing that you're going to implement in your business. Just one, even today, just get that one thing that you say, you know what, if I don't ever look at these notes again, it's okay. I found one thing that I can help build my business or increase my GCI or commission, whatever it is, and implement that.
No, that's great. I want to change gears a little bit. So, Liz, do you consider yourself more of a listing agent or a buyer's agent? And talk about some of the strategies you do for lead generation, sort of how you systemize the lead generation, costs you put into it. Can you just unpack that a little?
So, as I mentioned before, I run a husband-wife team. My husband is here, he's in the back. And we have an ISA. So, as I mentioned before, I do not like to lead generate. It's not the thing that I'm best at, or maybe that's a limiting belief, because I know if I got on the phones, I can do it. But I hired an ISA who does my expired calls for me.
Can you just let everybody know what an ISA is?
So an ISA is an internal sales agent, inside sales agent. And what she does is she works full-time for me, and she basically calls expireds for sale by owners. She does a lot of circle prospecting around listings that we get, or open houses, things that, again, I just don't want to do, and there are things in my business that my time is worth more. And that's, again, personally for me. So I am a listing agent, and if anyone is familiar with the New York market, compensation is a very big issue for buyer's agents out there. So, and not to get into that, but when I started our team, coming from a leadership position, we had to decide, where is our time best spent? Is it with the buyer and getting paid X, or is it on the listing side, controlling the inventory? So that's pretty much what forced us to be listing agents. So we are listing agents. We only work buyers by referral. Okay. So if someone personally refers me a buyer, I will never turn down a referral, because I want to maintain that relationship with that agent.
Yeah, actually, Liz, I just want to go a little further on that, especially with your experience. I'm a brand new agent. I've been in the business a month, 2 months, 6 months, and I really want to grow my business. What do you suggest I do?
Team up with someone. You know, it's, personally, I'm afraid if I was a brand new agent in the industry, what would I do first? But I think that teaming up with an agent in your office that's experienced, help do open houses. Maybe if they have a brand new listing, you can take that on almost as if you were the listing agent and door knock around it. circle prospect around it, do the open house, get to know people in the neighborhood, because real estate is a relationship business. That's how I treat it. It's all about relationships. Talk to people, hand out your business cards, no matter where you go. If you ask someone about real estate, they're always interested. You talk to people, and I sometimes have conversations with people and say, hey, ever think about getting your real estate license? Ever think about selling real estate? And almost every person says yes. Almost every person. So just have conversations with people around you. Start building a database. I'm very big on social media. So start creating a social media presence, because I know for me, when I go on appointments, people research me. People want to know that you're real. I've gone on appointments and people have said to me, oh, I've seen your wedding pictures online. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Right.
Not sure if that's creepy or not. But you know what? You know that when I come to your door, I'm a real person. I have a family, I'm real, I do things on the weekend, I go to the beach, I go on vacation. I'm not, when you search my name, I'm gonna come up.
Right.
And I think that that's so important.
No, that's awesome. And I always say that's why you should have your Zillow profile up to date with your recent sales, your reviews, a current picture or a picture, because people are gonna, before you go in to list their house, they're gonna check you out. They're gonna look at your reviews, and if you're not up to date to that, it could affect your business. So that was great. How about you, Rob?
There's a lot to unpack here. I mean, I remember I got a listing from my Zillow profile, a $3 million listing, just because I had it up to date and they saw that I was local in the market. Just a couple things to, I guess, touch on there. For one, I agree, you should definitely partner up with somebody if you're a newer agent. I think some agents have, this notion of, well, I don't want to come into a team and only make 35% on every sale or 25%. You have to take it on the chin a bit for a couple of years, I think. You're going to start building referral network, and then you'll have your wings and you'll be able to fly. The way I built my business on the listing side, I'm more of a listing agent. That's where I've always focused is, again, I specialize. I don't know if you're familiar. I know you're familiar with Brooklyn a little bit. I lived in Park Slope maybe about 6-7 years ago, and I took an area from 3rd Avenue to Prospect Park West, from 9th Street down to 22nd Street, very, very specific, focused on 3,600 buildings, and only focused on those buildings. These were 1, 2, 3, 4 families. Some of them were development sites. Any condos, co-ops, I always refer them, or I partner with someone else on. If I had an opportunity in Greenpoint or Williamsburg or Manhattan, I would always bring someone else in it, because I knew I was not the expert there. And the way I built the business was just cold calling. Now, I offered them something of value, whether it was a new sale or a new listing, even if it wasn't my own. And it might be a little bit different in New York, because we have access to the data a lot easier, I think, from the Department of Buildings. And then, I've never been really keen on buying lead generation. I know some of you guys have had success with Zillow, and I've tried it all from Zillow to Bold Leads to many other products, and I feel that when I've been buying these leads, I spend so much time focusing on the leads that are very low conversion that I don't put my time on the sort of blocking and tackling and the least expensive way of prospecting, which is cold calling.
Rob, just unpack that a little bit. Did you use any special programs for cold calling? Because I know a lot of people get lost in the paralysis. I'm going to start cold calling. I'm going to call expires. I don't know what to do, so they never do it.
No, I mean, I would call building owners. Some of them own multiple properties. I was usually offering something of value, like I said, not calling, just saying, do you want to sell your property? There might have been a listing taken by Corcoran down the street, and I just let them know that a new property is for sale. And since they live in a neighborhood, I thought they'd be interested in hearing what their property is worth, and then they're going to keep hearing my name over and over and over again, plus the postcards, plus they see my signs. And over time, my name just resonates with them, and they know that I am the local guy in that neighborhood. Basically 250, 300 calls a week was my target. That would get me in front of 2 or 3 people a week typically. The only system I used was just a phone, a headset, and basically reverse lookups and Property Shark, which we use in New York.
No, what I love about that is both Liz and Rob, what you guys discussed, really didn't cost a lot of money, right? Going deep on relationships, building relationships with agents out of the state, getting referrals, calling owners. It's a trade-off. They didn't spend a lot of money, but they invested their time and effort into that. So that's why I say in this business, no matter what level you're at, it doesn't matter income-wise, everything else. If you put the work in, the results should follow.
And consistency.
And consistency. Consistency, consistency, consistency. Because I saw some people's face when he said 250 calls a week. Some people gave that shock look like, what?
Smiling, dialing.
Smiling and dialing. JC, how about you?
Well, I agree with the both of you up here. Your approach kind of changes as you evolve in the business. So when I first started in real estate, I wore out a lot of dress shoes because I was door knocking. I couldn't afford to spend money on these systems. I knew I wanted listings, and the only way to go about it was doing that, door knocking and making phone calls. That's how I started. Luckily, as I continued to grow in the business, able to leverage myself with time and start to put people in place. So I focus on listings, and honestly, I don't do majority of the work with it. Carl, you can attest to this. I have an inside sales agent that makes calls for me.
She cold called me about 3 weeks ago on a listing. And I started laughing, and I'm like, who you calling for? And I called him up, and I said, you know, your ISA just cold called me.
At least I know what she's doing. She's logging the hours, so it works. So just being able to leverage yourself, really. So I really have an inside sales agent who makes calls for me on expireds, for sale by owners, and circle prospects the area. That allows me to come here and do different things like this. Or if I don't want to go in on a Wednesday because we are working on the weekend, it allows me to do that. Me focusing on listings allows me to bring value to my team that I'm trying to grow now. What's one of the main reasons somebody might want to be on a team? Leads. So listings bring good buyers, and being able to give them the leads from that is value that I'm adding to them. I do a couple other things. I am big on online lead generation. I feel the leads that you get online are only as good as the people working them. So if you're in every day in the office, what are you doing, right? You should be lead generating. We start our mornings 9 to 12 every day, lead generating. So that's how we focus it. So our inside sales agent and our online lead generation are how we start every single day.
No, that's great. I want to just take a second and see, because this is a lot of good information that was just given. Does anyone have any questions they want to ask me about systems, programs, anything like that? I think it's a good place. Kathleen?
The young lady, I just wanted to ask the internal sales agent, so that's someone obviously that's licensed.
She happens to be licensed. She has a real estate license. She knows what the best use of her time is. She doesn't want to go out there and spend money getting listings. She doesn't want to work, it's not what she wants to do. So I happen to fall into someone really great that loves to be on the phones, loves to follow up, and yeah, she happens to be licensed. Yeah.
Okay.
How did you go about prospecting for your ISAs?
I can answer that. Mine is outsourced, actually. Mine's virtually overseas. So I interviewed Philippines. I interviewed probably 10 different companies, had them give me recordings, went over it all, and then they have certain systems that I put in place that they have to follow. I'm not on a contract with them. They have to perform on a week-to-week basis, and so far, so good. She's been getting me, on average, 2 appointments a week.
So you recorded them?
Yes.
Okay.
Recorded them for quality control. I'll review it at the end of each week to see what they're saying, what they're doing, making sure that what they're saying is in line with what we are, because they're not licensed. So I need to make sure that they're not doing anything illegal. I had one before this that I actually had to let go of because they called an active listing and caused problems for me. Luckily, I knew the listing agent, but I'm big on compliance, so I review it every week, and they're on a week-to-week. The one that I have now has been doing very well. They send me a tracker sheet at the end of every day of who they called, what the results were, what appointments they booked for me. They have access to mine and my team's Google Calendar. They plug in appointments where availability is there.
Do you train them in objection handling?
Yes. So I have scripts that I go over with them. We do a monthly role play with them, and a lot of them, if you get good ones, they already are familiar with it. They go through the training and they have it. There's companies out there that if you interview enough of them, they've done it for a long time. They have a lot of the, Mike Ferry scripts, and they're well versed on what to do and how to say it.
Did you stay with people in New Jersey, or did you, oh no, you said that you outsourced to Philippines. It changes from,
Here's me personally. I always say, you hire an inside sales agent in the office, right? And let's be honest, it's a burnout position, right? How many people are going to consistently want to call 40 hours a week for the next 10, 15, 20 years, right? The pay grade isn't that great for it. What's going to happen? You're going to either have somebody that burns out and it doesn't stay in the role, or they're going to get so good at it that they're going to want more, and they're going to want something else. And then here I am, I'm either gonna be rehiring somebody every 6 months because I had to let go of the person that wasn't working, or they got so good that I'm gonna have to retrain somebody else because now they're doing something else for me. Whereas you pay $10 an hour outsourcing it, think about how much $10 an hour is in the Philippines. You get good quality work there, that's a lot of money there, and it goes a long way. And honestly, they have no problem doing it every day. A lot of people here, they get a little bit defensive with it. Over there, it just works.
Liz?
So just to answer a different perspective of that, my ISA is local in Staten Island. She works from home. She has flexibility. She logs her hours. She, at the end of the day, she tells me how many calls she made, who she spoke to, sets appointments directly in my Google Calendar. I like having someone local because she can have different types of conversations with the expireds and for sale by owners. So she knows the areas. So she can relate to them a little bit more. And we actually just took an expired listing that she set the appointment, and the people actually said to me, had you not had a persistent assistant, because the outside world doesn't know what an ISA is, if you haven't had such a persistent assistant, there was no way you were getting in the door. And she just complimented her so much for following up, consistency, just being on the phone, being able to have a conversation with her. And for me, I have that extra person that if a door needs to be open, she can go open it.
But how did you find her?
So, by accident, really. Not looking for an ISA, not looking to bring anyone else on. Someone had recommended and said, hey, do you want to split someone to make phone calls for us? And I was like, okay, that can't be bad. And so her background is she was in the car business. So she was always on the phone and appointments and follow-up. And she was making appointments for copier machines. So, those people are on the phone all day, and she had a really hard time because she was getting cursed out on, and appointments weren't following up, where, it kind of was a fit for her because she had her license, she liked real estate, and, diamond in the rough, really.
She has no desire to become an agent? Nope. Like what you're saying?
So on top of her getting, paid as a full-time assistant, we'll call her, any personal referrals she gets, she'll get a referral fee on top of that, so there's an incentive. Every deal I close that resulted in a call that she made, she'll get paid as a referral. So it gives me the opportunity, because she's licensed, to pay her extra and incentivize her.
And I think finding people, sorry, 1 second. And I think finding people is, you got to put it out into the universe for it to come back to you. If you're looking to add something to your team, or you're looking to add something and nobody knows really besides you, it's not going to come back, right? So when people say, I want to expand, I want to do this, the first thing you have to do is you have to start putting it out there, right? Question back there?
Yeah, again, for Staten Island. I recently acquired an ISA, literally just last week.
Okay.
So far, so good. Booking, kind of paying per appointment and incentivize when it closes, but I'm new to this. So I'm kind of I was struggling a little bit with what to give her. So it's just really a lot of for sale by owners. And it's like 5 for sale by owners this week, which you're going to hit one of them.
Right.
And that's cool, but that's a lot. And you had mentioned something that's interesting, circle prospecting. So can you tell me what structure you have for circle prospecting? You know, more into that?
Yeah, so every time we get a brand new listing or go under contract or sell something, she automatically calls the block, the area, 200 or 300 homes within that area, and it's a different call. So it's almost like a treat to not have to call the expired sometimes, even for her, because it's a different conversation you get to have with someone. If you're a person that cold calls or deals with expires and FSBOs, you can easily get defeated. It's constant, or sometimes constant no's and hangs up and cursing you out and things like that, where she gets excited to make those phone calls too. So like I said, for my ISA, I pay her a salary, and then she gets incentivized by anything that closes. I don't pay per appointment. I only pay when it closes, the extra incentive.
And then for calling the block, what systems, if you don't mind asking, are you using to get those?
We use Cole's Realty resource to pull cell phone numbers, home numbers, and we get emails as well. So we'll put those in our database and send a blast out of a just
Like
listed.
department store? Or?
No, COLES. Cole's Realty Resource, I think it is, if you just Google it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Just to touch on that also, I use a similar model. I use Land Voice and feed it into Mojo, which is an automatic dialer. So I have this inside sales agent calling. All the voicemails that are being left are me. So they're pre-recorded. It's not her leaving the voicemail. I'm the callback number. So I'm the local expert. Her sole purpose is to get people to me, not to answer about the area or anything like that. So just to touch on your point, because it is important to make sure somebody local is speaking to them.
That's great. We'll come back. There'll be chances for more questions later. But let's talk a little bit about goal setting. And I actually like to call goal setting milestone settings, because I feel sometimes people set goals and then you hit the goal and it's kind of like a letdown. So I like to call it a milestone, because you hit that milestone and you keep moving. But guys, talk to me a little bit about, I guess JC, you can start. Tell me a little bit about the goals you set personally, that you set for business, that you set for the team, because me knowing you, I also know you do set some pretty high personal goals and that you achieve them. So I'd love for you to share.
Yeah, so touching on that, I'll get into my personal a little bit, which kind of helps me balance my work life. Personally, I just set easy goals for the team. 1 transaction per month for leads that are given to them through our system. I use right now Brivity, it's called. It's my CRM and my lead generation. So my goal for them is to close 1 lead through there per month and 1 through their sphere of influence. And then myself, my goal is to take on 3 listings per month. And it's really all appointment based. My goal is be in the office 9 to 12, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday with my team, lead generating. I feel that if we do that and hit those activities, that the results come from it. It's just really doing the repetition. Again, motivating yourself to be there and getting the good habits. I make sure I start my day at 5 o'clock in the morning. That's where my personal life comes in. That's kind of how I got into running the marathons and now doing an Ironman this week. It kind of helps set the tone for what I want to do with my business. So I definitely think getting in that repetition in the morning, starting your day the right way, building the good habits, the results will follow if you're doing those activities. I'd say focus more so on the appointments that you're going for, and then you'll see the dollars coming in from it.
Great. Rob, how about you?
Sure. I mean, my goal every week was basically going on 2 valuations, 2 new listing appointments. Every day I'd come into the office. Every day I'd come to the office, Monday through Friday. I'd get dressed, get there early, even if I didn't have an appointment that day, because I wanted to get there and be consistent, be on the phones. I'm not the type of guy who likes to work out of home with my shorts on, and you're always going to find some kind of distraction there. So I always felt like I was, like I said, present in the office every day as well. I always wanted to, in New York City, we double end a lot of our deals because we show our own listings for the most part. So my goal was always to double end half my transactions. I mean, it's 2 deals for the price of 1. And I was always able to do that by having a really good open house strategy. So I always set up 2 evening open houses every single week, besides typically about 4 on the weekends, and that's how I would always double end most of my transactions, because you're controlling the listing, you're controlling the buyers that are coming through, you're controlling the brokers that are coming through. But yeah, that's sort of my...
So Rob, even after you're successful, you were doing open houses?
Absolutely, yeah, because so in New York, it's not a throw on a lockbox and just let another broker walk through there. You have to really sell the property, I think. And that's why I always had a challenge with just throwing a buyer agent on there, a newer agent who didn't know anything about the property, who didn't know the value add, who didn't know the development opportunities with it, because it's not a box. The things that I was working on in Brooklyn, a lot of it is geared towards developers and investors. You have to be able to explain the rent roll, you have to be able to explain the upside, the development opportunities, and just throwing a random agent in there, I felt they didn't have enough. And I've tried to just bring on agents to do that, but I always felt like I needed to be the face. That person who was coming in was also an investor typically, and I would have more opportunities by having that personal connection with them.
No, that's great. Liz, how about you?
So for me, having a why in this. So everyone should know why it is that they're getting up every day and going to work. And if you don't know, and it's not an easy thing to figure out, people think like, okay, you should know your why. But sometimes you have to dig a little to figure out why is it that I'm doing what I'm doing? And on the tough days, you have to remind yourself of what that why is. So every year we create a business plan between October and November, and we kind of set out what our intentions are for the year coming up. And then every quarter, you want to check in on those goals. Okay, so if you know you need to close, say, 20 deals a year, okay, after the first quarter, are you there? Are you hitting that milestone? If you're not, are you changing the goal? Or are you readjusting and implementing new strategies? So that was a big thing for us.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I always say too, with goal setting is you got to be able to pivot. I think pivot's such a huge word. I just did a video recently about this because you can have a goal and you could be going towards that goal, but markets can change, situations can change, your personal situation, your business situation can change, and you have to have that flexibility to go in that different direction because it might actually take you past that goal, right? You can't get so tunnel vision on that one thing that you lose that flexibility. So no, it's all great points. You know, really what I want to ask too, especially with you three, because with your experiences as team leaders and executives, is, I mean, tell me a little bit about your first hire. Because one thing, and I'm going to talk about this in my next training with Mike, is there's a word capacity. There's only so much individuals can do where you have to start hiring to really be able to expand your business. And I always tell the story about the first time I hired somebody. I put an ad on Craigslist. I said, I need this, this, and this done. The person responded to the ad. They came to the office. We sat here like this. And they said, I could do X, Y, and Z. I said, okay, great, you're hired. Person comes into the office the first day, looks at me. I look at them. I said, so where are we going? What are we doing? They go, I don't know. I'm waiting for you to tell me. I'm like, well, you said you could do X, Y, Z, so I thought you already had this figured out. Guys, it lasted 2 weeks. And that was 2 weeks too long. You know, I always say that you should hire slow and fire fast. And I've done a lot of hiring and I've done some firing in my time, but I always like to hear different perspectives, whether it be a team member, anything that was kind of your first hire and any insight you could give on that.
So you guys all know about my ISA. She is my one hire. It's just me and my husband. And Mike, my broker, will always talk to me, and I may give him a lead of someone who may want to join the company, and he'll say, hey, do you want them on your team? And I say, no. And that's just me personally. You have to know where you are in the business and how you want your structure to run. And I say to Mike, and unless they have my last name, I don't want to build a team. I think between me and my husband, we're a powerful force together, and there's a responsibility with having someone on your team. And for me, I know that I would start sharing my commissions and doing things that I probably shouldn't do as a team leader with having buyer's agents on my team. So just that's a personal decision for me. We can scale our business enough right now that we don't need someone else on our team, and we'll close about 25 to 30 deals between the two of us, and our business is rocking and booming. So the only person on my team is an ISA.
No, I love that because I think starting a team is sort of the trendy, cool thing to do in the business. And I think sometimes people go down that path and realize it's not for them. And in fact, when they thought they would make more money and have more time being a team leader, they actually realize that they're making less money and have less time. I always say, I remember one time when I was a team leader, I was writing a contract for one of my team members, and I was like, wait, who's the team leader and who's the team member? So right there, I knew to blow everything up on the team and restart from scratch. But how about you, Rob?
I think it depends on what you're really doing in the industry right now. I mean, when I built regions, I mean, I did a lot of fog and mirror tests because I needed people just to take some of the bandwidth that we had as far as lead generation and cover large territories. Of course you're going to fire a lot of those people because only 30% of them are probably going to be worth the business that you give them. I think as far as building a team, I think you have to start off slow. I mean, my experience is again, it's the whole office culture thing for me, just because I get to see their day-to-day, how productive they are, how motivated they are, what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. You know, they are the face of you. So I started off slow by just referring my buy side, having her come on some of the pitches with me that I go on, and then I actually left, and they continued to build, and now they're one of the most successful teams with a top firm in New York City.
That's awesome. JC?
Yeah, so my idea to start a team kind of came into my head back in 2015. It was my last year as a solo agent. I was up to 45 transactions without an assistant, and I said, I can't keep up this way. I'm going crazy. So I decided to go even crazier and got into management, where I went to a company where I was in charge of 1,000 transactions per year and not getting compensated for any of them. Got into management for about 3 years, and then I said, you know what? I want to get back into Salesforce, but I want to be able to use what I know now to leverage a smaller team. You know, I agree completely, not growing it too big and not having value to everybody and not being able to, you know, keep the core value of what you want to grow in place. What that means for me now is I have a small team of 3 where I'm able to coach them on a daily basis. So an hour of a day that we spend is dialogue. All right, how'd it go today with your conversations with the leads that you had? Here are some tips of things that maybe you could have said or done, and I'm there for them. It's a small, tight group. We all have common goals. We make sure that we're in every day together, but we also know you're taking off on Wednesday. Go do what you have to do with your family, or if you have to do that, book it that way. But when it's a small team where I'm at right now, I think it's very manageable, and you know, I'll scale it a little bit, but I don't want to get too out of control because I want to be able to be hands-on and make sure that it's running efficiently.
JC, can you unpack a little bit of the technology and systems you use with your team?
So we start our morning every day at 9 a.m. the same exact way. I use what's called Brivity. There's other ones out there familiar with Boomtown and so other systems like that, very similar. Every morning we start at 9 a.m. We start by clicking last visit on our website for their leads. And every morning, the team, they start by calling the buyers that they have in their system that were on the site last and work backwards. Simple as that. So somebody was on the site 2 hours ago, we know exactly what they were looking at. They might have 25 people that were on the site in the past 24 hours. So just working smarter, not harder, not trying to cold call. You're strategically looking at, okay, this person has some interest because they're on our site. We're going to follow up with them. So that's how we start every single morning, as tedious as it sounds.
I want to take a quick second and just take another pause. Does anyone have any questions around hiring? I'm passionate about hiring because I've done it the wrong way. So I try to spare as many people not to go down the path I've went. It could be expensive and very taxing. So does anyone have any questions real quick about hiring for any of the panelists? Suzanne?
I have a question between Rob and Elizabeth and JC. The conversion rate for Rob was 2 in 200 to 300 calls. He gets two appointments a week. Tell me about your conversion rate for ISA when you convert that as compared to what Rob does.
I'll start. So my ISA, she'll get into about maybe 500 calls per week, and on average, I'll go on 3 appointments per week. That's where I'm at right now.
So I'm pretty similar with my ISA, between 85 to 100 calls a day. And what she reports back to me is how many calls she makes and how many people she speaks to. Because you could make 500 calls in a day, but if you don't speak to anyone, then there's something wrong. We've got to change a system in there. So from that, she'll set phone appointments for me. So she'll set some direct appointments that I'll just go and meet with. And then some people on the fence who are maybe a little defensive, she'll say, you know what, instead of having to meet in person, can I just have you speak to her? And she'll set phone appointments. So probably a week, I would say between in-person appointments and phone appointments, say 3 to 5 on a given week. And some weeks it's 0, you know, but average 3 to 5 a week.
Okay, so touching back on that again, you're taking the personal aspect out of it by calling, like when I call, like how when Rob calls, it's just him on the phone. I get a lot of, when somebody else calls for me, I get a lot of like, why isn't Suzanne calling? You know, why am I getting a team member? Why am I getting an assistant? How do you get?
We actually really don't get that. She doesn't get that response because it's almost, their defense mechanism kind of goes down a little, and it's someone that's just calling to see, hey, what happened? What happened with that expired? You know, talk to me. She's building the relationship where if I were on the phone, I want the appointment. I don't want to know what happened. I just, you know, I want the appointment. So it's actually, it works pretty well for us. And then, like I said, when she's getting the resistance from them and saying, well, we're not moving, we're not selling, we don't want to, the house is no longer on the market, she'll close in for, hey, can I just at least get you on the phone with her? You know, maybe she can see something on the listing that, you know, I can't because I'm not, you know, the professional, but maybe she can see something. And when she's calling, again, because it's personal, even with me and her, and she's very local, she automatically knows the properties that we're selling, houses that we're listing, so she can immediately say, oh, you expired in Dungan Hills in Staten Island? We just actually closed on something there in record time over asking, you know, in 30 days. So now there's that personal touch.
Okay, but with JC, you don't have that personal touch.
I don't have that personal touch. So my ISA obviously is virtual. They have one goal, is to get people either on the phone with me or in person with me. If people say, why is he not calling directly? It's very simple. His job is, he's passionate about working closely with clients and educating people what they're working with. If you can give us 30 minutes of your time to meet with him and his team in person, he'll show you why he would be a good fit to work with you. I'm calling on his behalf because he's on appointments servicing his clients.
Can you share where do I obtain the virtual assistant information, or can you share the one you use, anything like that?
Sure, I could get Carl the information after this, and it's a team of them. So the one I work with works on behalf of a team. There's, I think, 10 or 15 of them with the company. There's a few companies out there that you can work with. I'll email you a few of them. Yeah, and you can outsource them, talk to them, see who's a good fit, and just go from there. But I definitely recommend doing something, because how many people in here can consistently say, like I can tell you right now, she's gonna get hung up on 90 times today. She's gonna call 100 people again tomorrow, or whatever the case may be, and she's gonna keep up. How many people in here can honestly say that you're gonna call an expired 6 to 12 times, right? They will, repetitively. She got me an appointment this week by somebody that told her to go to hell 4 times. They were gonna sell it by themselves. That didn't work out as planned, and she got me an appointment. I went Friday at 8 o'clock at night on a listing appointment now, and I think I'm gonna get it this week, that she got hung up on 4 times. How many people in here have the stomach to do that consistently and to get the results?
Show of hands here, whoever hired somebody and it didn't work out? So I think the big takeaway from that is, no matter, you know, hire, and I have a process on how we hire, and they have to fit that process to be hired, and we do not bend on that. So no matter whether you're hiring an ISA, an assistant, even team members, if you got to follow your process, but you have to also train and empower that person to do the job at the best level that they can do it. You know, if someone's really talented and you train them well, it's going to work. If somebody's not talented because you didn't do a good job screening, it's not going to work well. Question?
When is the right time to hire somebody? Like, if you're new and not making any money, really, how you got money to pay whoever you're hiring?
Well, like I mentioned in the beginning, I didn't have the money. I first started in real estate. I was bartending nights just to supplement myself, honestly. So what I did was, I hit the doors. I went door knocking. I made calls myself. Luckily, like I mentioned earlier, I got to a point in my career I was able to leverage time and money by giving that out. In the beginning, honestly, there's no secret. You have to be comfortable prospecting in order to generate business. If you're not comfortable prospecting, I hate to say it, it's probably not going to work out for you in real estate. That's really the difference between the people that succeed and don't. Majority of this industry does not make it. And it's really not any big secret why, besides being repetitive in your technique to prospect for business.
So I've been in the industry for about 13 years and a few different roles. But when I got back into sales, my first year, you know, we didn't have an ISA. So that was, it was my second year being back into sales where I said, okay, well, something's gotta, you know, we wanna make more money, close more deals, get more listings, so we need to implement something. And you know what? It was scary. It was scary because we were responsible for someone's pay every week. And if that doesn't push you,
yeah,
you know, it's, I have a responsibility to make sure that really she has a job. But I also know that one transaction pretty much pays for her salary for the whole year for me. So even if she just gets me one, I still have all of these contacts that are constantly being called and talked about my team, my name, the company that I work with. So.
And just to touch on it again, I got back into the sales field after being comfortable in a management position with a salary for 3, almost 4 years. I questioned myself in the beginning. I said, all right, I went from making X as a manager to 0 again. I didn't hire everybody right away. I said, let me see if I am as good as I thought I was at what I'm doing. And I started to build it from the beginning last year myself again, making the calls and doing all that. I said, okay, I still have what it takes. I'm gonna, source it out now the way I want it to. So really just believing in yourself to do those activities and having the confidence to do it.
And I went through the same exact thing. I came from a management position and went back into sales, and I literally, with my husband, questioned, are we doing this? You go from a paycheck every, 2 weeks to being back in real estate, and even though I was seasoned and I grew an office to 150 agents and was helping agents build their teams, here I am back on the ground floor saying, uh-oh, do I need to go back and get a job? And this is a real conversation that me and my husband had, and it's like, well, what is your why? That's what pushed us. We didn't want to have a boss and work for anyone and have someone tell us what to do. So we created a business plan, went back to basics, just basics. You don't need any money to really start in real estate, pay your dues and all of that, but you just, relationships, it's just conversations with people. We pretty much spent no money our first year and built a business and made over $275,000 our first year back in the business. So.
Any other questions about hiring, team members, admins? Yes.
Not about hiring. Rob, could you share some of your commercial real estate experiences? And second, all the three of you, what keeps you motivated?
Srini, you're stealing some of my questions that are coming up.
So I was living in DC back in 2012, I believe, and the top boutique, the #1 building sales firm in New York City asked me to come up and be managing director for 2 offices. And I said, I'm flattered, but I don't know anything about commercial real estate, nothing. And they wanted just to have a different perspective coming from the residential world. So it was a chance to get back to my roots back here in New York City. So I took the position, and really my first year, it took a while to understand the business. Now, the one great thing about this company was, again, it was very territory and specialization. So everybody focused in one specific area, one specific product type, and knew it inside and out. And that's what I learned. And I was seeing these 25, 30-year-old kids making $1 million sitting in that chair. That's why I went back into sales. And I just followed that system where, again, the commercial world's a bit different. You are in the office every day, suit and tie. You look like you're slacking off if you're coming in at 8:15, right? So you're there every day from 8 to 6, 8 to 8, on the phones, nonstop, going out on your pitches, coming back, not taking the rest of the day off. So that discipline is what I learned there. And with commercial, the only thing that I really took into the residential world was development, multifamily, and some mixed use. To me, those were the 3 easiest to really grasp off of, instead of leasing and anything that has to do with any environmental problems. So I don't know if that answers your question about my commercial experience. I don't have a lot of commercial experience, but as a residential agent, I take that with me, and it makes me look smarter because my pitch is different. Because when I did my valuations, they were typically off of investment value. Even if it's not an investment property, there was still an investment value there, was an end user value there, there was a development value there. So my pitch wasn't, here are 3 comps that just closed. It had a full analysis, and it just made me look like I knew what I was talking about.
So what motivates you still today?
Well, I mean, I go back and forth. I was telling him before, you know, going from sales to management. I think when I'm in one role, I want the other role, and when I'm in that role, I want to go back. The one thing, I mean, it's not about money. It's part of it, you know, set yourself up for the future, but you have to love what you're doing. I mean, I love the flexibility of being in sales. I mean, you can get lazy when you're just an independent salesperson, but again, if you plan your day right, you have a great quality of life. You can go on vacation once a month, and your business still runs. And that's what motivates me, is not having really to answer to somebody, and you know, just creating a legacy, so to speak.
Okay. How about you, JC? What motivates you?
Motivates me is just all the potential for the future. Real estate offers so many different opportunities, and a lot of people don't look at it as I own my own business, right? I can tell you right now, 30 years from now, I don't want to be sitting open houses on Sunday, but maybe I have a team of 10 that I still make residual income off of, where I have a few passive income streams coming in, and I own 10 investment properties, right? So just my motivation really is all the potential that I see down the line to live the life that I want to live, the way I want to live it, and not have to work, but have money coming in and work when I want to.
So what motivates me, exactly like these guys said, is, you know, you have the opportunity to build something really great. It doesn't have to be big. It's whatever works for you. The flexibility, me and my husband want to start a family, and for me that was one of the biggest things and reasons why I wanted to be my own boss, was because I would like to raise my own children. I would like to drop them off to school and pick them up and be part of baseball and, you know, dance and all of those things, and that was really important to me, and that's really part of my why. So your why should be your motivating factor to push you to get up and do what it is that you need to do every day. And just like I said, just being your own boss. You can create something really amazing if you want to.
Just to touch on that too, for those that are considering building a team or that already do, you have to genuinely care for the members of your team. So what I mean by that is, if my team members don't get their why before I do, then it's not going to work out. You really have to genuinely care and get these people to their goals if you are building a team, in order for you to see the return on what you want. So just make sure that if you are a team or running a team, that you consider the team members you have first and foremost, because it's the only way it's really going to work long term.
Yeah, if you don't care about the team members, they're going to see it right away, 100%. One last question, then we'll do some Q&A. And Rob, I think you led into this question perfectly with the vacation once a month. So who here in the audience, right? I see everyone's shaking their heads. Who here in the audience has ever felt like this business has been running their life, right? You get to that point where you're so busy, you feel like the business is overtaking your life. We've all been there. You know, I think if you didn't raise your hand, we've all been there, right? How do you guys balance, we'll start with you, Rob, because the vacation's once a month. How do you guys balance that personal time and having that freedom with the business?
I think initially you're really just grinding it. I mean, I didn't have that part until my business was sort of up and running after really a year and a half to 2 years. It took to really make it sort of turnkey. You know, it felt like every time I went on a vacation, somebody would call me and they want to list their property, and I'm, you know, on the other side of the world. So I think, you know, you have to, what I did, again, I always talk about specialization and where I work. I didn't even live in Park Slope at that point anymore. I actually made sure I got my hair cut there. I went to the gym there. I spent my entire day in that area, knowing that area, and you know, making the time to go on those personal appointments, putting them in your calendar, going to the gym. That was probably when I was in the best shape of my life, because I was in sales and I had that flexibility. And then the business just runs itself. I mean, after I left sales about a year and a half ago, I still had a referral business coming in that I just passed back along to my former brokerage, you know, with the last one closing about 2 months ago. So it really runs itself as long as you build it from the start. And you know, you just got to grind it at first.
JC, how about you? How do you balance the personal time and business time?
I value my time now a lot more than I used to. My wife said she knows I'm comfortable with what I'm doing, because I won't go on an appointment at 11 o'clock at night anymore on a Friday. So what I mean by that is, how many people, if you got a buyer calling you right now, wants to see a property in a half hour, you're running out the door and you're on their schedule? You can't be that way. You really, as much as you can, I know especially in the beginning it's nerve-wracking because you never want to lose that opportunity. You have to value your time and say, great, I can show you that property. I can show it to you 11 o'clock tomorrow or 2 o'clock today. Which works better for you? Really taking control of your time, treating it as if you are in control of what the buyers are doing, you have to do that as much as possible, because if not, people will run you ragged in this business. So being able to stick to your schedule as much as you can, obviously things happen and you have to deviate once in a while, but really sticking to it, trusting in yourself, and having a plan to be able to block out personal time is huge. I tell my team, we sit down and do our calendar once a month. The first thing I want you putting in there is if your son has a T-ball game, block that out. If you have something that you have to do personal, block that out. That's first and foremost, because if you don't do that, you're going to start to resent the business, and it's not going to work long term. You have to be willing to maybe lose a potential appointment here or there, and know that if you stick to your plan, that you'll value yourself a lot more, and it'll still work out at the end.
And there's no better feeling than firing a client.
The best feeling in the world. Honestly, if you can get to a point where you can fire a client because you don't need it, it's the best feeling in the world. Okay? Even now, I got rid of a listing because they wanted to be $100,000 overpriced. I paid for an appraisal out of my pocket. Still don't want to listen. Nobody's going to sell that house. But I have my team sitting there every weekend at an open house that they're not getting traffic at. It's just not productive for anything. Sometimes letting go of a client gets you more productive.
And I say treat that personal appointment, the haircut, the T-ball game, whatever it might be. Not that I mean you have the haircut appointments.
This takes a while.
Well, you know, like Rob with the haircut appointments, but you treat that as an appointment and just like that, and that's a great way to balance everything. How about you, Liz?
So being a listing agent, business still goes on if I'm not physically there, which, you know, has been a real big help because showings can still happen no matter if I'm there or not. I do believe that there should be something on your calendar that you can look forward to. So pre-planning something, and I'm guilty of not doing that because my husband and I will know that it's gonna be a slow week or slow weekend, and we'll be like, okay, where can we fly to? And that's how we've been vacationing, unfortunately, sometimes, because you don't wanna lose sight of the fact that you still need to run your business. So I'm a big proponent of put something in your calendar at least once a year that you can build that anticipation and look forward to something. It's just me and my husband, and we spend plenty of time together. So it's not like I have someone at home that's saying, hey, you're always on the go, you're always on appointments. We're spending our days literally together. So.
Just to touch on that, it's a good point. When I first started in real estate, and I'm very competitive, so every month we had a sales meeting and they would go over who was number 1, number 2 in the office. I'm like, I'm definitely gonna be number 1 in the office. I was 6 months in, I had 5 closings that month. Who was number 1? The guy that was away for 5 weeks. I look at it, I said, how the hell does he do this every month? And he just had listings and knew how to leverage it. He was gone religiously every December for 5 weeks into January. He took these elaborate trips all over the place, and like clockwork, it still functioned and he still had closings every month. I called him because he had an international phone. I said, how the hell didn't I beat you and you haven't beat me for 3 weeks?
Well, I was gonna say, who here ever feels slow in the business? Right? Book a vacation. Right? Because the day before you're going on the vacation, everybody starts calling you. Everybody's now, the person who wasn't ready to list for the last 2 years is magically ready when you're at Newark Airport about to step on a plane. So if you take anything out of this today, is book a vacation.
And that's kind of the main reason why I thought of a team concept, right? Because it gives me leverage. I'm one person, I could be in one place at a time, but now I have buyer's agents. I want to make one of them my lead listing agent, where I can kind of take a step back and work on the operations. It gives you that opportunity where it's not all on you. You have other people that you can rely on to do the job for you, and you're also helping them build a better life by building more business as well.
And when you're scaling a team, it can't be about you.
No,
if it's about you, it's going to fail.
Correct.
Right? Bob?
This is going to be, I am not in the real estate, I'm in the title end. We have a joint venture with Powell. I'm listening to Carl and Olivia, and I'm listening, and everything you guys are saying sort of transcends into sort of every business. It's make sure your time is done, make sure you're working hard. So as I'm sitting here, I'm getting good advice, but it's from a different thing altogether. So I think that you can take this into anything that you do, really, from listening to you.
It's sales, honestly. The same activities translate whatever sales field it is. It really just, we get to sell the best product, real estate, honestly. It's the easiest sale. It's not like you're selling a car where if you sell Mercedes and they want a BMW, you're screwed. You know, you can sell them any house in the state. We have the ability to do that.
It's true, I used to work for AT&T.
There you go.
Any other questions over here?
So I know like you're basically independent business yourself, you're a independent entity, but you have a brokerage. How important is it to be in the right broker or to have the right broker?
It's everything. Well, I'll let you guys answer.
I mean, it's very important. You know, obviously, I'm here for one reason. I'm very friendly with Carl and Olivier. They're great guys, and that's kind of why I'm here. Partnering up with somebody that's going to support you, offer items like this that bring value to your business is important, right? There's a lot of competition out there, and you just want to make sure you're aligned with somebody who's going to give you that value.
I agree. Who you're in business with really matters. You know, if you're with the company and they don't have a good reputation, you're associated. No matter how good or great you are, you're still with that company. So when I was making a transition and figuring out, hey, where is my next move? It was purely because of my broker. No matter what brand he was with, and that's just the honest truth, it was him that I was getting into business with. His support, his value. He was a broker that, you know, built a 7-figure business. Who better can I learn from? You know, out of someone who's actually feet on the ground, doing it themselves, grinding every day, knows the area, knows the industry, and that's what I was personally looking for.
And if you want to come learn from him, he will be here October 9th with me doing a training about scaling your business to 7 figures.
And just as great as they are, it really comes down to the individual. At the end of the day, they can coach you up all that's possible, but if you're not willing to put the work in to get to be successful, it's not going to matter what brokerage you're with.
And to go on that is, you know, I think training gets lost in this industry. Training's great, but if you're not accountable and actionable, all the training in the world doesn't mean a thing.
That's true.
I mean, the only thing I'd like to add, and this might go against some of the grain, I don't always believe in just the brand. You know, it has to be the broker support. It has to be the people around you, their mission, their culture. You have to feel good around you. You have to feel supported around them. You know, I've never really focused on just the brand at all. I know the brand might be able to help you get you through the door at times, but you know, it's you. It's not the brand at all.
Yeah, I agree. Any other questions? Well, if there's no other questions, I just want to personally say thank you to the 3 of you for taking your time to do this, and thank you for all of you who attended. I hope you guys got some really good nuggets from this. I know I got a lot out of this. So again, guys, I just want to say thank you, and you know, if you guys can make it October 9th, just keep a lookout for the email. All right? Thanks, guys.
Thank you.